First of all, thank you very much for your time today. Would you mind introducing yourself and what you do?
Yes, of course. So I'm Emma Miller. I'm the curator here at Grimsthorpe, and I'm also one of the family who have lived here for quite a long time.
Wow.
And this is Daphne, if anybody can see Daphne, who might make an appearance once or twice.
You can see a little nose coming up. Bless her. So Grimsthorpe Castle came onto my radar.
Yes.
Because of it being a stop on the 1541 progress that Henry VIII and Catherine Howard took.
Exactly.
How come it was a stop on there?
Well, so Grimsthorpe at that time belonged to the Duke and Duchess of Suffolk. And the Duke of Suffolk was a great friend of Henry VIII's. He was actually at one time married to Henry's sister, Mary. But after Mary died, he married Catherine Willoughby, who had inherited Grimsthorpe from her father. And they were such good friends and remained so throughout their lives, which is extraordinary thinking of Henry VIII. I mean, he fell out with almost everybody. But the Duke managed to stay in with Henry. And when Henry was having problems further north in Lincolnshire in about 1538, he asked Catherine and the Duke of Suffolk to move into Grimsthorpe in order to try and calm the protests that were going on in this area of the country. And then in 1541, when Henry came on this big progress north, he obviously decided he'd call in on them and stay a couple of nights. So he arrived in August in 1541 and actually held a Privy Council meeting here.
Oh, right. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And brought, as they did in those days, a huge retinue with him. So there were, hundreds of people camped out in the grounds. And story has it that all the people he brought with him ate a sort of mile wide of crops and food from the surrounding area as they went north. So it did
decimate the
yeah, absolutely.
We'll move on.
And it was a very expensive thing to have the monarch coming to stay, particularly somebody like Henry VIII, because you really had to sort of up your game for the visit. So, in fact, although there was a sort of basic house already here at that time, Catherine and Charles Brandon, the Duke and Duchess of Suffolk, hurriedly actually sort of built on to the original house. And hence that was really the beginning of what we see today.
Oh, so it was much smaller?
Yes. And they added on. They did an enormous extension for this 1541 visit.
Classic getting ready for Henry.
Yeah, exactly.
So is there a lot of castles that Brandon would have recognised still today?
Oh, yes. I mean, the lovely thing about Grimsthorpe is that the architecture, and you can very much see it if you're walking around, particularly maybe on the outside, but also on the inside. You've got this great mix of the Vanbrugh North Front, built by Sir John Vanbrugh in 1723, and then the south facade and the south of the castle, which is still very much Tudor. And you can see that. It's very obvious when you walk around.
And then, so what happens after the Brandons? And because the front of the castle, obviously, but did you say 1723?
Yes.
Who owns it by that point, and what are they doing, and why
right. So, well, at that point, the family had sort of moved up the ladder in terms of hierarchy, nobility, if you will, with various titles being bestowed on them between Henry VIII and 1723. But in 1715, they were created dukes. Just to rewind for a moment, the Duke of Suffolk had died and that title had gone with him. So there was no dukedom in the family between that time and the 1700s. So in 1715, they were created Dukes of Ancaster And of course, that was something to really celebrate. So the first Duke decided actually to celebrate. He'd get in the best architect of the moment, who was Sir John Vanbrugh, and he'd have the house redone. So the plan was to redo all four sides of the house, in which case the Tudor side, the south side, would have kind of disappeared behind this new facade. But what happened was that Vanbrugh died in 1726, and I think probably by then, and it was the second Duke by this time, he was probably running out of money. So in fact, it was only the north front that was done by Vanbrugh. But it's very beautiful.
It is. So is that just built on the front of the Tudor palace that was there?
Yes, I mean, Vanbrugh obviously changed it a bit. He created these kind of wings that you can see today. And it looks very different to what it would have been in the Tudor times. But there's still, you can still see signs of the Tudor house as it would have been. For example, the Vanbrugh Hall is quite likely to have been what would have been the Tudor hall in those days, where everybody, the whole community, would have got together to eat. So that probably was there in some sense, even before that.
Revamped.
Exactly.
I mean, the front is stunning, and it's impressive when you go down the driveway.
Yeah, it's a bit of a knockout, really, isn't it?
It is. You've been used as a filming location, haven't you?
Yes, we have been, actually. So I'm sure some of your viewers might have seen Bridgeton.
Yeah.
And we were used as a set for a ball scene. Now, I can't quite remember the name of the character, I'm afraid, but I think it was series 3. So the Vanbrugh Hall was totally decked out for that. It was very exciting.
It lends itself well to
yeah, absolutely. And it was great to watch.
So we've got the Tudor architecture and Vanbrugh's architecture. Is there any other architectural features of the building?
Well, on the Tudor side, something that's interesting is that again, harking back to Henry VIII's visit in 1541, you can see on the outside that there's a bit of discoloured stone underneath an arched window that's quite high up. It sort of comes up, it leads onto a staircase that goes up to the first floor. And the story is that Henry was by this time quite a big man. He'd already put on quite a lot of weight, and he couldn't physically walk upstairs. So apparently a ramp was made up to this big window so that he could ride his horse in and ride it all the way up to the first floor where his bedroom was.
Oh,
yeah.
I've heard about him in a chair.
Yeah.
I put it down. I actually heard about him riding a horse into bed.
It's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
I can now see that would probably be a good solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the kitchen, am I right in thinking there's a rather special fireplace, which is in an odd place, the James coat of arms?
Yes, that's in what we call the vaulted hall. So there's the coat of arms of James I of England and 6th of Scotland. And he also came to stay with his queen, who was Queen Anne, in 1611. And he left, his coat of arms was put in there probably to welcome him to Grimsthorpe. So quite a lot of monarchs have been here. Charles I stayed at one point, and Charles II, and latterly our King Charles III stayed when he was Prince of Wales with Queen Camilla, as she is now. And they came to stay here when Prince William passed out of the local RAF family.
I suppose we're in quite a strategic location for the north here, are we? And
yes, exactly. I mean, it's certainly in the Tudor times, of course, and Roman times. There were not that many roads going north, so the Midlands was a really important stopping off point. We're not too far from York. We're kind of between London and York, I suppose. and London and York being two very important centres, as well as Lincoln being, well, by car an hour, but goodness knows how long on horseback.
Yes, that'd be not
or in carriage.
Because are we on the Great North Road here?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, yes.
So we're on the
main route.
Trunk road, north,
and of course then further on to Scotland as well.
Yeah, because when Henry VIII and Catherine came here, they were on their way to York.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And Catherine Howard was apparently having an affair with Thomas Culpeper, and the story goes that this was one of the few places on that Progress North that they were well behaved. So I'll put it like that, to put it politely.
Now, you've got some very beautiful rooms.
Yes.
In the castle.
Yes.
We're in the Chinese room at the moment.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about.
So this is the Chinese drawing room, and as you can see, it's sort of Chinese in style, Chinese wallpaper, which was exported. It was part of this great interest in everything Asian, which started to develop as soon as maritime trade routes opened up in the 16th century. But this was actually, the wallpaper was probably put up in about 1811 when the Willoughbys of the day started to redecorate in here. So the wallpaper's outstanding. I always look at it and think it's incredible that it's in such good condition, considering it's been up for over 200 years.
Blue, isn't it?
Yes,
so
yes.
Seems to be the colour it should be.
Not that I'm an expert, but no, everybody always absolutely loves it. It's got this incredible ceiling, which has these this coffering, and every single octagon has a different pattern within it. And this was done earlier than the paper, actually. The ceiling was probably more like the 1770s, 1780s. But it would have been done by one of the major plasterers of the day, possibly a chap called William Perrott, who was a very good local master craftsman.
So who would have used this room at that time?
Well, in the 1800s, because of this interest in Asia, they discovered the tea and tea drinking ceremony. So this became a bit of a thing. So this room then was created as sort of tea drinking area, and it was a cool thing to do, to have your friends over and have a cup of tea, because not everyone could afford it.
Very exotic at the time.
Yeah.
And we're overlooking the view.
Overlooking the view, which is this spectacular landscape with a lovely lake and a lovely open view across Lincolnshire.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and what other rooms have you got? Because I know there's some.
Oh gosh, well, the ones that the visitors can see, which are pretty much all the really beautiful ones. We've got the state dining room, which, and of course in those days, the ground floor, other than the main entrance hall, which for us is the Vanbrugh Hall, the area that would be lived in by the family was on the first floor. So the servants would generally live on the ground floor. So you would come into this incredible entrance hall, and then you'd go up a staircase and you'd be on the first floor. And then, depending how important you were, you would get further into the building and into the more intimate rooms, as it were. Mm-hmm. And the family would actually, or the lord of the day would have had the really important people as far as his bedroom, where amazingly quite a lot of business was conducted. So we've got the state drawing room, which probably was a steward's room, where you would derobe, take your cloak off and so on. And then further along, we've got the King James drawing room, named after James I, that we've already talked about. And then we've got the state drawing room, which is very beautiful. And sort of, that was redecorated by the third Duke and Duchess of Lancaster, and their portraits can be seen in there. tapestry drawing room, and I'm sure you'll see it's got tapestries all over the wall, very beautiful Joshua Morris tapestries. And then a whole set of state bedrooms. One of the incredible things about Grimsthorpe is that since about 1626, the family's had an office, a great office of state called the Lord Great Chamberlain. And so since then, until the Victorian period, they were allowed to take lots of perquisites, or perks as you might call them now. So these came often in the form of furniture or articles of clothing, which were often connected with the royal family. So they were royal thrones, outfits that the king or queen might have worn, beds that they slept in the night before the coronation. So we've got an incredible collection. We've got the most royal thrones outside the royal palaces. Yes, we've got an amazing throne, which is George IV's throne that he sat on after his coronation, because in those days it is stunning, and he wanted the biggest and best coronation ever. Yeah, it was very, very extravagant. So his throne is particularly stunning. We've got two of his father's thrones, George III's. We've got Queen Victoria's throne, plus the table that she signed her coronation oath on. Wow. And this sort of thing, and a bed that Charles II slept in the night before his coronation. We're being joined for a bit of...
Yeah, definitely.
So yes, lots of interesting things.
Wow. I love the idea that it's a perk to make off with the throne or five.
Yeah, absolutely. And sadly, that all disappeared in Victorian era.
Oh, really?
So we don't get perks.
You don't get perks
anymore. No, sadly not.
Anyway, you've got quite a few.
We've got enough. We've got enough. So we had two heiresses, American heiresses, who married into the family in the 20th century. The first lady was the second Countess of Lancaster, who married the second Earl of Lancaster. They married in 1905, and she was a very, very beautiful lady called Eloise Breeze. She was from New York and absolutely stunning. And she was photographed and painted by so many people of the day. De Laszlo has done a wonderful portrait of her that we've got upstairs. And she apparently, even when she was much older, never liked to be called Granny, my mother-in-law says. She only ever wanted to be called Mama Eloise, refused to be called Granny. And her daughter-in-law, her son, married Nancy Astor's daughter, Phyllis, who was known as Wissy. And of course, she was another American heiress. So quite a lot of money from America coming into the family at that time. And they both redecorated the castle. So,
they brought the money.
And apparently didn't particularly like each other.
Oh, right. That's a
bit of competition.
So Nancy Astor, that's an interesting link as well. Nancy Astor MP.
Yes, absolutely.
Had the clash with Churchill.
Yes. One? Oh, yes. Many clashes.
Many clashes with
Churchill. Yes. She was a very strong character. And in fact, she died here.
Right.
Yeah. She came to visit her daughter, and I can't remember the year she died now, but yes, she died in one of the bedrooms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, lots of links to
absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was great.
Not at all.